When you're helping someone with their business, you kind of have to help them with their personal development, right? Because oftentimes that's the thing that's getting in the way. These either like limiting beliefs, these outdated identities, because sometimes that's the bigger barrier than the execution of a given strategy.
Mark Fisher, what's up, buddy?
I'm here learning, training, getting alloy in my skin and my blood.
I'm hoping to learn. That's why I selfishly pulled you in here.
Yeah, great. Yeah. Great. I'm prepared to disappoint.
Teach one, learn one. That's not a thing, but I just made that up. Sounds good. Sounds profound.
Yeah, I like it.
Did you bring a dad joke?
I did bring a dad joke, yeah.
I'm impressed.
Yeah.
Can you do it in, since you have a theater background?
Yes.
You told me it before. I thought it was really funny. Can you do it like in character?
Yeah, I'll do it in a theatrical way, which is appropriate request considering you gave me the dad joke. If we're being honest, listeners, let's go with who was the builder of King Arthur's Round Table?
Who, says ye?
Circumference.
That's got to be the best delivery of any dad joke ever. Well, I never can remember mine, so I've got it on my phone.
Oh, now you have to,
I have to
deliver yours in a theatrical style.
Oh, I don't have that. Mine's like it as my style, because this would happen. Okay. Once my dog ate all the Scrabble tiles. For days he kept leaving little messages around the house.
Oh, okay.
Come on, you have a little dog.
Yeah,
that's good.
Yeah, I do have a little dog.
Right?
I do have a little dog.
It's funny. I had a client the other day. She has like a little Yorkie or something. What's your dog? What's your breed?
Well, believe it or not, he's something called a chug.
What is that? A Chihuahua mixed with a pug?
Somehow a Chihuahua and a pug. I can only assume.
So it wasn't like a manufactured thing.
Well, we don't know their background, but I'm imagining there was a romance, an unlikely romance between a pug and a Chihuahua.
Which one was the dominant spoon?
we don't
Who's
know.
bottom?
Yeah. We'll let listeners have that visual image burned in their brains.
Well, here's another visual for you. So I have a.
Oh God.
Yeah, it's almost worse. I have a client who has a little dog that eats everything, and she said one day it ran by her in the house, and half of her underwear were.
Oh wow!
We're coming out of the dog. Yeah.
Okay.
So what'd you do? She's like, I just stepped on it as it ran by, and and the dog yelped and then ran off, and it was finished.
No.
I'm like, that is so bad on a tiny little dog. Dogs are wild.
Yeah.
They're awesome. How's the baby? How's the girl?
Just the best.
She's cute, man.
Just the best.
I feel creeper because I like follow her, and I'm like, oh, Mark's baby's so cute.
Everyone says their baby's beautiful, but she obviously, I'm very high off her presence. And
well, if somebody's baby's not, you just don't say anything. You're
that's
like,
true.
How's the baby? You don't tell them how cute it is, right?
Yeah. And I feel like I'm finally also getting, the return. It's a long play when you got a baby. The first
ROI on your baby.
Yeah, listen, the baby, a lot of upfront costs, a lot of risk while during potato times.
Right. Yeah.
She was an adorable potato, and I loved her for sure. But she's almost 2 years, so now is the first time where I'm like, oh, I'm going to miss this for the rest of my life. Like on my last day of my life, I will think about the love of this, because she just starts doing all these weird, cute things. Just all his personality. Like I'll be working at my desk and she'll just walk up and just put her, kiss my thigh and just put her head on my cheek and look up at me and smile. Dude. So great.
I know. It's funny. I would joke facetiously that I wish that when I had my kids, they would disappear and then come back when they were 2 or 3.
Yeah.
Because there's not much to do with their potatoes. They want the mom and she provides them food or whatever.
They're fine.
That is,
they're cute-ish. They're fine. But now I'm getting into the fun stuff. So
yeah. Well, congrats. She's cute. You made a good baby.
Thank you so much. I credit my wife.
Yeah, exactly. You were there for 14 seconds and out comes a gorgeous baby.
Very little
good
to
job.
contribute.
Good work, my friend.
Thank you.
I mean, as a fellow man, I appreciate the work that you put in.
Thank you.
Listen, I feel like this is a redundant question, and I know that I get this question a lot, and I feel like I've said it a million times. But for people that have been living under a rock and don't know who Mark Fisher is, give us some of your background. I think it's really interesting by the way you got into the fitness industry, the original gym that you created. And why. Do you mind walking us through that?
Yeah, for sure. So I think the short version is I have been based in New York City for a long time, and I started my professional career actually as a professional actor. So I was an actor, and I knew that I would do better if I worked out. I was a very skinny kid, particularly in high school. So I got into training. So throughout my 20s, I essentially had two passions, really. I had my professional avocation, and then I got really into training. But when I like things, I really, really like things. So I got really into it. And throughout my 20s, I slowly got more and more into training. And I always describe in many ways fitness was I guess if this is not too bawdy, but it's sort of the mistress I left my wife for. Because as much as I love the theater, short story, it's a tough gig, particularly theater, even if you're doing great. And I got a wife who's been in 9 Broadway shows.
Yeah.
It's still a tough gig. So as my 20s progressed, more and more, I was like, okay, this is the thing I want to do. I would find myself, getting auditions for like TV shows and being like, I don't want to watch this TV show. I'm in the middle of the strengthcoach.com forum. I'm so interested in this thing, right?
Wow.
And what happened was throughout my late 20s, the cool thing was I kind of developed a niche with performers, specifically Broadway performers, because I was an actor. And that was very satisfying because I started to knit together both this community that was very important to me, that I had existed in, but also this intellectual passion I was obsessed with, right? And that was the seeds of what became the business that eventually became known as Mark Fisher Fitness.
And it's located where?
It's in Midtown Manhattan in Hell's Kitchen. So for people that have not been familiar, you will not be able to unsee the things you see if you go to our Instagram. But Mark Fisher Fitness' tagline is ridiculous human, serious fitness.
Right. Love it.
And for me, what I wanted to do was take the work of a lot of people that, we know, like fellow speakers of Perform Better Tour, the Mike Boyles, the Charlie Weingroffs, the Dan Johns, people that really understood training. And I wanted to package it and deliver it to my friends who, one, many of them being performers, particularly in the beginning, needed that kind of support for their body to function. But also people that didn't necessarily feel comfortable in a lot of gym environments. So I wanted to make a space that was fun. I wanted to be irreverent, but I wanted to be serious fitness. It was very important to me that the training was good. I wanted to honor these mentors, these people that I looked up to and I learned so much from, and just find a way to deliver to our clients in a way that would capture their attention, would be interesting to them, would make them feel safe, would be relevant to the things that they want. It was really cool. So, a little like lens into the unusualness of the culture. We don't call our members clients, we call them ninjas, and we don't refer to it as a gym. It's the enchanted ninja clubhouse of glory and dreams. And our mascot is the unicorn. And it's a wild place. It's a sort of like glittery, strange, rainbowy, metally, drag queeny, bizarre temper tantrum against nihilism. And it went great and against all odds. Like people liked it. It was cool.
It's such an interesting pairing. I don't know anyone who's been able to pull off like combining these two worlds, right? It's really cool. And, I would say that, I've been in the industry a long time and people that know of you, there's a lot of people that know you and you're the king of creating culture because you're able to combine these two worlds that typically may collide, right? And just create this amazing experience. And people come to New York that are in fitness and they just want to go see Mark Fisher Fitness because it's such a special place.
It's like an amusement park. Yeah.
So I'll tell a story. The first time I met you guys, you probably remember this, maybe not. I was, we had purchased the NFBA from Tom Plummer, a friend of mine and I.
Yeah.
So Tom would do day one and I would do day two. So we're in Baltimore at the pier, right? I'll never forget this because this speaks to like this interesting combining of cultures that I found so interesting. I mean, I never will forget this. It's been 12 years and I still remember it like it was yesterday. So I'm teaching day two, which is a little bit more tactical and we were doing like some exercise stuff. So you were there with your whole team. And to your point, like your team was like a hodgepodge of different kind of characters, different personalities, not necessarily typical fitness, right? People were dressed in goofy stuff like for fun. I mean, they were truly themselves, right? Which is kind of refreshing. It really is. And so we went through the workout. And the thing that I could distinctly remember about the workout is everybody's form was like on point. Even folks on the team that didn't like, and I'm air quoting, look fit. I don't know what that means, but you know what I mean. Your typical trainer girl or trainer dude, right? Swinging kettlebells like a pro, like RKC certified, like perfect hard swing. And I was like, man, these guys have perfect form. We were doing all kinds of goofy stuff and you guys nailed it. And just the most gracious, like fun group I've ever been around, honestly. Just the most open, nicest people. And then something after that event happened that has never happened before and has never happened since. And I've taught seminars and spoken all over the world. I actually got a thank you note mailed to my facility, or that we're sitting in right now, from your group, thanking me for that day of training. And I was so touched by that. It's never happened before, and it's never happened since. Okay. And and again, it was the contrast of like, I'm literally moved almost to tears because it's never happened. And I was just so impressed by you. At that moment, I knew like this dude's a straight up leader. And I'm not just blowing smoke, because you're here. I was really impressed. But then when I opened it, the messages were absolutely hilarious. So again, it was this contrast of like heartfelt fitness folks, and then like, okay, here's the crazy, right?
Yeah, guys like hitting on you.
Yeah, literally one
like,
of your coaches, the way they signed it, it wasn't like thanks, it was DAT, D-A-T, ass. DAT ass. And I'm like, what is this?
Yeah,
it was a dude. It's a guy at the gym, and he's like, DAT ass. And he puts a smiley face and says thanks. I'm like, dude, that's amazing. I loved it. I was like, all right, this is the most amazing culture, right? So anyway, props to you guys, and I'll never forget that.
Thanks,
so what happens after that? You open Mark Fisher Fitness. At what point do you? I think you did a TED Talk. Is your partner's name Michael?
Yeah,
right?
Michael's
Michael's a great guy. I've talked to him on his podcast or your podcast.
Yeah.
But then you guys did a TED Talk at one point. It was pretty early innings, right?
Yeah, it was actually only our third year, but we being as embedded in the Broadway community as we were, the Broadway community has their own TEDx. Right?
Oh, no kidding.
Which incidentally is like a funny little actually quirk, because TEDx actually has to be a location. TEDx can't be like so it's TEDx Broadway, like the street, not Broadway the community, but in practice it's Broadway the community.
Right.
So at any rate, a lot of people we're working with a lot of fancy.
Was it done like on a stage, like in a Broadway? It looked like
it was an off-Broadway
set.
It was an off-Broadway theater.
Cool. Yeah, it looked really cool.
Yeah, it's a really cool event, and I've been on actually since that talk. I've been on the board for TEDx Broadway, and it's
very cool.
It's a really cool group of forward-thinking, interesting, kind of innovative people in the Broadway community, kind of like the Broadway intelligentsia. So yeah, we had an opportunity at that, and that was very cool. And then the business did, very well. So, and it was insane. So what happened was the local and national media, both in fitness and just mainstream media, started picking us up a lot. And then that started creating opportunities for me to do more speaking. And that kind of gave birth to MFF's kid sister, Business for Unicorns, which is essentially a business focused on helping gym owners create more income, impact, and freedom. Very interesting, of course, because most people are not going to do things the way that we did. But as somebody that loves to learn, that has been so fun and sort of fascinating to try to unpack what are the principles, and then how do we create an array of different plays for different gyms and different cultures that people can utilize. And I'll say the other thing. This is an interesting distinction for me personally. I grew up in a high school as a skinny kid.
Right.
As a music theater kid, right? And it's been funny to find myself in fitness has been hilarious in many ways, right? The whole time I was like, I own gyms. Like, what happened? It's so weird, I often think of that, Joseph Campbell quote, right? The cave you fear to enter holds the treasure you seek. And it's just so interesting to me that I wound up in fitness. But one thing I've reflected on a lot has been sort of very satisfying is in many ways I feel like I made Mark Fisher Fitness for my friends in high school, and then I made Business for Unicorns for like the guys that scared me in high school, right? So it's sort of
interesting,
satisfying that on the one hand, this one business were for the marching band kids and the band geeks and the skate punks and the theater kids, and then Business for Unicorns, not exclusively, but it's not a secret. A lot of people to get into this industry are people that were athletic, that
right. That weren't you trained for sports, and you find out you're better at training than sports.
Wasn't necessarily the crew I would have hung out with, and that too has been a really, I think, interesting and important arc for me personally to find myself in a place where I can hopefully be of both business, but coaching. It's often it's not just the X's and O's.
Exactly.
Right? And sort of have the opportunity to really be present with people and have them, certainly there's tactics, there's strategies, there's plays, but there's also digging into okay, why, we had said this thing was going to happen. It didn't happen. I'm just sort of curious to dig in sort of kind of what's going on there, right? Sometimes it's, I don't mean to make it sound like it's like therapy all the time, but I mean, sometimes it's just I was busy and my kid got sick, right? But at the same time, it's something I know you talk a lot on this podcast, right? There's this concept of business as this personal development journey.
Yeah, self-help journey disguised as a business.
Totally.
Really, do you agree that it is?
100 million%.
And your business will only go as far as your personal development can take you, right?
Yeah. So, when you're helping someone with their business, you kind of have to help them with their personal development, right? Because oftentimes that's the thing that's getting in the way. These either limiting beliefs, these outdated identities, because sometimes that's the bigger barrier than the execution of a given strategy.
Yeah. Well, again, that dichotomy and that blending of these two worlds is really what makes you interesting. It's like when you started Business for Unicorns, I've talked to a lot of people that are in it. I mean, there's There's a softer side because you can't help it, right? Because that's who you are, and you're a feeler, and you're a very heart first guy.
Yeah.
But there's a lot of tactical information there because a business is a business. And, you have to keep score as an adult, and that's numbers sometimes. And, it's really interesting.
Yeah.
So it's a cool mix. So Business for Unicorns, Mark Fisher Fitness still running, right?
Yep.
Anything else that you're into right now?
No, that's it. No, nothing.
And how long is that
else.
from getting into the fitness industry to now? How long has that been total?
How long has I started training? Probably like 17 years. 17 years.
Right.
Well, I guess there's, if we're being honest, I guess there's one other thing I'm doing, Rick.
Well, let's hear it.
Well, have you heard of Alloy Personal Training?
Alloy. That sounds like a pirate greeting.
Fantastic.
Oy,
yeah.
Alloy. Well, no, I mean, that'd be next question. So I will just tell all of our listeners, and again, it seems like I'm pandering to you because you're here. I'm not, but I'm really honored. I mean, I've thought the world of you. Like when you first hit the Perform Better circuit, you were this completely out of the box guy, created all this buzz. Your rooms are packed. I was in every room that you were in. I couldn't believe it. It was just this, and of course you're an actor, your delivery's amazing, you're a great speaker. And I'm like, this guy is onto something completely different in the industry, because it's like 2 degrees, like one way, and it's a totally different feel.
Yeah.
And you brought that, right? Because it's just strength coach, business guy, me, business guy, and then here comes this guy who's like theater background, also hardcore strength coach guy. It's like, it was a really interesting blending. So why Alloy? I mean, you could do anything you want, and I mean that, right?
Yeah.
And I know that you were looking to maybe divest and some other opportunities, but why Alloy?
Yeah, I mean, I think there's a few things. I think the first thing was going back to this model of business as a personal development journey. I was interested in scaling something that was more operationally focused, right? So Business for Unicorns, I love. It's very fulfilling. And I don't know, I don't want to say I have like a chip on my shoulder, but I don't want to be the guy that's like just like talking about it. I also want to I'm good at this. I know how to do this, right? And I was excited by certainly something that I think was going to be more scalable, right? Because I love Mark Fisher Fitness. I think, there's probably some room for some growth maybe within New York City, but on balance, a lot of the things I love about that business make it not scalable. And to some extent, I'm probably not willing to do the things required to fix it. So it's a great business. It helps people. It's good for cash flow. I love it. It's my baby, but it doesn't really scratch the itch for scale. And a franchise by definition is a scalable asset, right? So part of it was, who I get to become on the journey of going through the bumps that, I know I'm signing up for with that. Part of it is having a vehicle that I think would scale better. Part of it was also realizing that I'm just so I think about the fitness industry probably too much. It's literally what I think about all the time. I'm obsessed with it. I love it so much. It's so fun. And, it was also not lost on me that I had a very specific experience doing what I was doing. And I knew that there were just holes in my skill set, honestly. And it just made sense to me to go with someone, that I respected, someone I looked up to, someone I knew had the places where I have gaps. I haven't opened up multiple facilities. I haven't been in a lot of other
different
markets.
Skill set.
Yeah. So I think that, realizing that, it's the cliche thing, right? But it's you're in business. What is it? By yourself,
for yourself, on your own.
But not by yourself. Yeah. Your business alone with other people, or something like that.
That works.
Yeah. So that was exciting too. I think 2 other things that have been very. Now I feel like I should. I'm not trying to sell it to you listeners, but these are the things truly that are valuable.
But if you
do want to sell,
I know a guy.
So 2 other things. One was I feel like I'm finally getting there, and we're finally seeing the benefits of this in other businesses. But the real advantage of a franchise, often that is not, I think, appreciated, is the constraints of
You've talked
simple.
about that.
Yeah, and certainly for my own development, knowing that was a thing. And again, I actually think I'm a lot better at it now, but I want it to be, if I can make the literary illusion, like Odysseus tied to the mast of the ship, where I can't go off the rails, right? And particularly having, had the opportunity to get to know you and see you speak over here, it was very obvious to me that you were so good at that. It was the thing I was missing. So that was very attractive to me, to give myself some real bounds and just keep it simple and sort of protect me from myself.
Has that been difficult?
Honestly, no, because here's the other thing too. Yeah, I think also because it's like, oh, he's a crazy unicorn guy. I think there could be, and to some extent, I fan the flames maybe of this. They're like this he's crazy guy. He takes his pants off. He goes to Burning Man, like whatever. But like,
can you go to Burning Man with your pants on? I don't even think that's allowed.
Yeah, I mean,
anyway,
yeah,
go ahead,
I'm actually like pretty operationally minded. Like I like the X and O's.
That's the friction that I talk about that's so interesting about you.
Yeah, and and to some extent, honestly, at times, it's me. Yeah, sometimes it's felt a little weird for me because I'm a huge fan of the EOS system, right? Which like we use at Alloy, I use in all my business. Huge fan. I think all models are wrong. Some are useful. I think a very useful but not always correct model is you have the visionary and you have the operator. And for me, that has not always felt accurate for me. And quite honestly, I think it works for me, and it's also kind of a limitation, right? Like I'm the first to say, like I'm not the best operations guy in the world, and I'm honestly I'm creative, but I'm not necessarily like the big dream, big vision guy. I have to like push myself there. It's like not my nature. I can be a little more careful because I want to make the trains run on time, right?
Yeah.
So for someone like me, an entrepreneur that likes operations, something like Alloy is great because it's just a simple system, and I know how to run these plays. And yet another thing actually that I don't think I clocked how valuable this would be, but has been part of the fun is the advantage of the system, right? Because I've always been a big community guy. I always like, Mike RC, who's another pal and another franchisee, I've always heard him talk about like, if other people like video games, I want to hang out with other people like video games, right? Because, I'm friends with almost all of the people that do what I do, right? That do like business coaching and have gyms. Like they're my friends because this is fun. Like, and I love sharing ideas and I love figuring out problems together. And what is unique and so powerful about the franchise is, being able to talk regularly with, the Mike RCs, the John Farkases, the Nick Garrity's,
right?
Kale's coming on board. A lot of these guys that I'm like, whoa, these are like legit dudes. And sort of having this fun opportunity for us like collaborating, particularly because while you can get a lot of that value with independent gyms in a coaching group, and I do think that's really part of the UVP of any of those systems, right? You're finding like-minded people that share your values, that understand what happens when you get kicked in the face, and they can also celebrate when things go good.
Right.
And certainly there's a lot of things you can share. But what is unique about a franchise system is it's really apples to apples. Now, certainly you have different staff, you'll have different, locations, but you're doing like the same thing.
Makes it really easy.
So the ability to sort of like benchmark, even like look at each other's KPIs and, it's not like there's like, we all have different funnels. Like, nope, we're all doing the same funnel. You get them on the phone call. So you can like one-to-one, like, oh, in my marketing funnel, we're having issues getting people on the phone, and maybe someone else is like, oh, we're getting them on the phone, but we're not selling them into the SPS, right?
Right, yeah.
So that has been hugely, hugely valuable and hugely fun. So,
well, real talk, I'm going to ask you a really hard question. I didn't think of it until just now. So, did you ever see the founder with? Okay.
Yeah.
So he sold some of his early franchises to restaurant folks, right? And they were like, "We're going to do spaghetti on Sundays because like kids like spaghetti." He's like, "We just do hamburgers, right?"
Yeah.
And so, obviously, I'd be remiss not to partner with some people that I know that are really good operators, like yourself, John, everyone else. So far, it's been interesting. Some of the guys with the deepest knowledge have struggled, right? Have struggled a little bit.
Yeah.
It's kind of a loaded question, but like, why do you think that would be through your lens? Because it's been, I think there's a lot of reasons why. Like, we're getting there, and the people that were struggling early on, it was just sort of this friction of like, but what about this? And hey, what about that? And I think there's some obvious things there, but that's a tough question to just spring on you, but any reason why you could think that would be the case based on the fact that you coach a lot of independent operators? Why do you think they might struggle in a system?
I mean, the most obvious answer, which I do think is like always the risk with bringing someone into a franchise with industry knowledge, is they have other plays that they maybe want to run that maybe get in the ways of the plays. So I'm sure some of that's going on. On the other hand, particularly with a younger franchise, there's probably some other advantages of coming in with some batteries included, having some things that you can contribute to the system.
This is just strictly based on measuring, like, say, AUVs, like what's the value of one location. the people with the least knowledge about fitness on an average in our system right now. Like we only have 50 open. We'll be at 100 by years in. But so far, the people with no fitness experience at all that are just running the play are doing better on average than people that came to me with fitness experience, which has been surprising. And I'm not saying they're doing bad, but I'm just saying, okay, if one person's a mid performer, as a percentage, our top performers are all non-fitness people. Right. So I guess it could be a byproduct of just bringing some things to the table or adjusting. I think a lot of it too. The only thing that I can then put my finger on would be the fact that somebody's going from like single club ownership to multiple, and that is a different skill set. Right?
Yeah, I think that's absolutely right. And I think particularly for it would be interesting to. Probably beyond the scope and interest of listeners. But it'd be interesting to splice in the data of this because I suspect there is probably one of the struggles we've had certainly was, so it's important to mention here that part of, for me, the benefit of an Alloy and a franchise was having a longtime client who could be an operating partner on the ground for me, right?
You say client of
Business for Unicorns. So, and I think part of the issue that took us a minute to figure out, I think we're getting traction with it now, was it's hard to do more than one thing, right? It's possible,
right?
But I know particularly, I don't think he'd mind me sharing this, but like Greg needed a minute, I think, to figure out how to balance his gym and this. And even for me, kind of the same thing, and I think we know the nature of the beast is, you gave us some really good counsel at one point. It's true. It's like, it takes what it takes, right? Which is like flippant, but like, that's the thing, right? And there was, I think, an updating of like, okay, there's certain things we have to really like teach this team and dig in on, that, and I think going back to my previous point, frankly, probably some of those skills I would say for me were rusty.
Yeah, of course.
Because I hadn't done it in so long, starting a thing from scratch.
Right.
And this is something I think a lot about when I'm coaching like owners is the things that, on the one hand, what got you here won't get you there. Mm-hmm. But if you've mostly been trying to go from here to there, now I'm trying to go to what got me here, right? So it's like going back to these skills, like, these like basic things.
Well, it's kind of a combo because you have to go back to the basics, but then there's also like, okay, now we're at 2, 3, 4 different skill sets.
You're absolutely right, and so that has been sort of interesting, but also again, like with the right frame, like fun, it was kind of like the thing that I signed up for,
You're like the consummate optimist style.
Yeah, and it's also like very satisfying too, because I don't know, like the story's just like not good if you win right away. You know what I mean?
Right.
Like,
we have people that are, 5 weeks into pre-sale and they're at 85 members and 130 is healthy, and so they're just allowed to open and they're just like, this is great, and they come back immediately and they're like, I want to buy 4 more. I'm like, hold on, like we're not really rolling yet. I mean, it's great, it's a good story, but it's like it's harder to 20 mile march this thing, right?
Yeah, for sure. And also too, if you're looking really to go to 5 to 10 units, right, the other thing true is like there's just like gonna be bumps. You can probably speak to this, better than I can, but like my understanding is if you're going to have like 10 units, there is going to be you can mitigate a lot of things with good execution, and there's going to be some factors, right? If you don't hire the right person, if you don't have like the exact perfect location. Now, my contention, which I would imagine you would agree, is if you're a good operator, you're still going to win. Might be a little harder, might not be as big as you want, but you're going to win, right? And then that also gets I think flattened out over time, because over enough locations, it kind of comes out in the wash.
It does.
Because it's interesting. It could also be like, I imagine potential risk is the person, not necessarily saying this is like anybody in the system right now, but somebody who like, maybe gets lucky, like lucks into hiring the amazing fitness director. It happens to have a great thing. And they're like, I am a genius. I am the greatest entrepreneur ever lived. So I'm taking, I've got a second mortgage on my house. We're going all in. I want 10 locations and I'm going to open them up all this year because I'm a genius and everything I touch turns to gold.
Well, that goes back to, I love that. That goes back to like, it's like, don't buy into your own BS, right?
Yeah.
And also it goes back to the 20 mile march, because you remember the story, like 2 people racing to the South Pole and one guy like did 20 miles whether the weather was really bad or the weather was really good. And I would say it takes as much discipline to pull the reins in when you're killing. And keep some margin than it does to like push through difficult things, right? Because that's kind of an obvious, like, well, the path is the way forward, right? The obstacle is the way type of idea. So it's been interesting, but I mean, listen, by no means are fitness people not doing well per se, but on average, I've been surprised. I thought these guys will grab it and go, but you see, like, there's some friction in the going back to starting over, just keep it basic, and then also, now I have 4 directors.
Yes.
That have the coach, right? It's like a different animal. And it's like fitness, like maybe you lose the director and it's like, you have your perfect team, and then like somebody moves to Tahiti with their better half. It's like, okay, well that happens, right?
Yeah.
It's kind of like did you ever see Shia LaBeouf? I talked about this with Kale yesterday. His interview on The Real Ones with John Bernthal, where he talks about the Chinese farmer. You've probably heard that analogy, right? So basically, we always say it here at corporate, like can't call it, right? So basically, and I'll retell it. Sorry for the listeners from last time, but I love the story. So basically, there's a Chinese radish farmer. It's an old man and his son. It's the only two that are living, and it's like 1400s. And they just, they have an old horse, and they turn over the land and they plant radishes, and they can live on the land for free, and they can eat some of the radishes, right? But like basically, they just sell the radishes to the property owner, and that's the way they make a living, right? And so one day, the kid's out plowing the horse, the harness breaks, and the horse just fucks off over the hill, right? So he's just like, ugh. And he goes inside and he's like, Dad, we're screwed. I can't move this plow without this horse. If we can't plant these radishes, we don't eat. We're screwed. And his dad, old wise man, so to speak, and he's just like, I don't know, I can't call it. And he's like, what if this man's out to lunch? Wake up, dude. Like, we're going to starve to death, And then sure enough, a couple of days go by and the horse appears on the ridge above with a bunch of other wild horses that have followed this horse. And somehow they sense like there's food, right? So they all come running down the hill into the property, and he closes the gate around the radish farm and fences them in. And he runs inside and he tells his dad, unbelievable, screw radishes. We're in the horse business. We're not growing radishes anymore. We're rich for back then. We have 20 horses, right? So they don't know shit about horses. They're radish farmers, right? So he goes out and he's trying to break a horse, right? He's trying to train horses, which he's never done. Horse, kicks him in the. And by the way, he goes in to his dad and he's like, "Amazing, we're wealthy." And his dad's like, "I don't know, can't call it." And he's like, "Just screw this guy." He just does. He wake up. He's training the horses over the next few days. Gets kicked in the leg, breaks his leg. Right. Same thing. All the villagers come around. Oh my God, you have these horses. You can't do anything with them. It's like nobody knows how to train them. Like you guys are screwed. And the one guy that could even farm radishes now is incapacitated. And the dad's just like, I don't know, can't call it. Next day, samurai army comes blowing through. They're marching off to go fight the Maoists, right, in China. And lo and behold, they say, "Give me any son you have under this age," right? And he basically points to his son who's in a splint, and he's like, he can't go. He's got a broken leg, crippled right now, right? And they say, okay, fine. They jump on their horses, ride off, and all 8,000 samurai die in the battle. Okay. And so the point is, like, you just, at the time, it can seem catastrophic.
Yes.
Or it can seem so great.
Yes.
But either way, you really can't call it. That's that stoic approach to like, don't get too excited. Don't get too low. It's very hard to do that, though, to control your emotions. Sometimes as an entrepreneur, in a day's time, that can happen.
100%. Right?
So anyway, that's the story. I'll send you the video because obviously, as an actor, he presents it in a much better. That overall podcast is great because he's had an interesting life.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah.
But, do you agree? It's just sort of like it's hard to control the highs, ups, and downs.
Yeah, completely. And so much of again that kind of going back to being a personal development game. It's like there's a certain self mastery required to not get carried away when it's going good, and also to not beat yourself up when it's going bad. Now, at the same time, obviously, you have to, take actions that are appropriate. You have to capture opportunities. You have to, gird up the loins. If you're not getting the results you need, you're going to have to do something different. But obviously, that goes better if you are able to not be histrionic, right? If you're able to not panic. And admittedly, I think, that is maybe another advantage that at this point in my life, I think is now I've been doing it long enough to have just so many reps of things going so bad and things going like so good.
I think it's a skill.
Yeah, it's a skill. And you choose to learn how to make the thing the opportunity. And I've just been through so many times where the thing felt so intractable that I start to have confidence finally. And this was not easy for me. Like, I don't think I'm like a natural visionary in the way. I'm a little bit more introspective and I can doubt myself. But also, the good news with fitness is I've done this enough now that even when it's like, all right, I don't know what to do to fix this thing yet, but like, I'm going to figure this out. Right. And sort of moving to a place of like, I can handle this. There's always a solution. And also, and I think, franchising, I think is another good example of this too, thinking long-term. So another shift that I had wanted to make that this has been helpful is, first couple businesses are like kind of all cash flow, right? Like I haven't really ever had like debt before. So to do, if you're going to come in with a franchise, you're going to have to invest a certain amount of money, and that would be the case with any business.
Right.
But like you don't even really have the option of cutting corners, right? There's brand standards, there's certain things like you need to do, and with good reason, right? But that also means that if this ain't a 2-year game, right? Like, it's just like if you really want this to be good, it's like a 10-year game, right? And then that also, I think, can give one peace of mind where it's like, yeah, even if you have a bad, like, I mean, hope it's not a bad year, but like, whatever, if you do, it's a year. The 10 years are going to go by anyway.
Right.
And if you just like keep at the thing, there's solutions there and there's ways to figure this stuff out. So yeah, that's, I think, a nice gift of, as my advancing age is, not that I never get bummed, because certainly I'm not perfect, and certainly sometimes I am like, oh, like when things don't go the way I want. But I do feel like I've gotten better and better about snapping out of it quicker and remembering invariably on the other side of a challenge is an opportunity for me to grow and develop a new skill set.
Well, and that's, going back to originally why get into alloy? You're like, what's a skill set I feel like I want to develop, right? And you had some of the bones of it, but it's like it's in a different sort of format now.
Yeah.
So like you probably look at it as like, okay, cool. I'll learn this skill.
Yeah. I mean, like, so this is like such a silly, like dumb thing, but like such like a fun thing for me. I was like, all right, like, look, we have to like go out there and like just like meet more people. We just have to go like meet more people. So it's all right, everybody, like, because I don't like live that close to the facility, right? It's like, it's,
how far is
it? The bird flies. Well, if there was no traffic, it'd be like 35 minutes. When there's traffic, it's like an hour and a half, right? But, and listen, everybody, like, I have like, people have been working so hard, and I'm like so proud of the work people put in. And, it's been such a feeling of like team camaraderie, which has been really, really satisfying. It's really upped in the past couple months. But, one of the things that, I thought there was an opportunity for us to do more of is like just meet people. So simple play, like just go meet people, make it a KPI. Everybody on the team has to meet X many strangers, give them some, and this can look different based on what you're doing, but some like business cards, some flyer, something with like a URL. And of course you're trying to get contact information.
Right.
And for people that haven't done that, that can feel a little bit scary. Yep. Well, when I first moved to New York, my first job before I did personal training on the side was I would stop random women on the street and I'd sell hair salon promotions. So I would stop strange women.
Good flow, that helps.
Well, that was, and I was so broke because when I moved to New York, oh boy, I was like so broke. I had like, because I don't come from like family money, and I was like lived in like, there was no AC in New York City, and it was after September 11th, and I was like got this terrible job off like the Village Voice. I'm like stopping random women.
Right.
And the thing about it is like, that's scary before you start doing it. But it's another thing too, where you just get the reps in, it stops being scary. But again, I had gotten understandably like kind of so away from it in so long since I need to be the one to do that. But I was like, all right, this is like, again, for my own development, but also to sort of support my team. Like, let's go out there and do it. Like, we're in a stopping shop. Let's go, till, if cops tell us to go, we'll sell them a membership, like, and it was really fun and sort of satisfying to be there, with these people that are working really hard. And like, I just don't think I've done it that much. Like, and then again, I'm saying the thing and it's like, okay, oh wow, now I got to do it. Right. Okay. Now I'm feeling a little like,
to show them how to do it. Right.
And I was like, okay, cool. And then you just like, you make a game of it. You're like, all right, well, first we're just going to like, just say hi to the stranger. Okay, cool. We're saying hi. Okay. Well, now get them to have start the conversation, right? And just sort of make a game. And it's been working, right? And I think like that type of like play is like obviously like a big part of what's supposed to be happening, but it can be very easy for a lot of gym owners, certainly a lot of even people in the system that, are told repeatedly, I'm in training week right now. They can't say it more times. You can't just sit and press the buttons on the digital ads.
Right.
So it has been so satisfying, and I've been just very proud to watch them do it. And then again, it's fun. Then you develop like, okay, cool. So
but it's also like, think about how that skill might cross over personally for you.
Yeah.
Like, oh, hey, I can talk to a stranger.
Yeah.
Maybe you're in the dating scene and you're like, it'd be nice to be able to walk up to someone and say hi at a coffee shop.
It's just a life
paralyzing if you're not used to it, right?
Yeah.
It's like who's based out of Atlanta, Sarah Blakely or Blakeney of Spanx, right? And do you know her history about selling door-to-door copiers?
Yeah.
And even before that, her dad would ask she and her brother, I think when they got home from school, like, how many times did you fail today? What a great lens from a parent, right?
It's so good. And that is so much of the game is like creating, just making these little games and proving to yourself that this thing, it's like, okay, be fair to enter, holds the treasure you seek. Because also like it's actually not that scary. Like people are not going to pull. We're in New Jersey. I think people are probably not pulling a knife on you, but they might.
They might.
Although even that was like funny because getting out there and do it was like, oh, I forgot. I have to be explicit. Like your body language really matters here because if you're running to somebody as they get out of their car, that's confronting.
Right.
But likewise, if you won't go near any cars and you're completely in the back of your heel, then you don't get to talk to anybody, you know?
Right.
So like that's the type of like on the ground nuance it's been so satisfying to figure out. And now, yeah, like now I'm going into this like with more like confidence I've ever had.
Right.
Yeah, so it's feeling very fun to feel like, okay, cool, we can do this, we can figure out the things, and yeah, it's fun to watch people develop too.
Yeah, well, that's what it's all about. Look, man, you've got the right lens on it. What's next for you? I mean, you've got the sky's the limit. You can do whatever you want. You know, I mean, what's next? Are you going to grow the business for unicorns? Obviously, you have Mark Fisher Fitness.
Yeah.
You've got an Alloy. You
Yeah,
said you
I
might be
mean-
looking at other investment opportunities. Like, what's next for you? Like, say 10 years for Mark. Obviously, you're growing a beautiful child, but what else are you up to?
Yeah. I mean, certainly, yeah, I think all three of those business opportunities kind of in different ways, right? Certainly, you know, MFF, there's now a team that kind of runs the day-to-day, so that role is very different. That's more supporting them. You know, I suspect as we grow Alloys, I foresee myself kind of coming in and out of operation based on what the business needs, because as you find the right, you know, team over time, I haven't done it yet, but I suspect like, you know, you look for the who's, not the hows that can help grow it. And then, you know, I think business for unicorns also is something that, you know, feels like there's a lot of continued growth potential. And that feels like this wonderful, satisfying blend of like doing the thing and teaching the thing. And then you learn when you teach the thing. So then you go back and do the thing and it makes the thing you're doing better. So I think, yeah, that's probably going to keep me busy, though. I actually am interested at some point, probably actually getting into the producing side of Broadway at some point.
Interesting.
I think that's at least 5 years away because I think I'm quite busy, Rick, with the dog.
That's right.
I have enough on my plate right now. But yeah, honestly, in 10 years, I would love all three of those businesses that have seen like really nice growth and, you know, creating enough space and opportunity potentially to kind of, you know, revisit, you know, my degree and the early parts of my career and some it's still a passion and see if some of the skills I've learned in this very different industry could be of benefit in, you know, supporting arts and culture in New York City. So
Yeah, look, man, I have no doubt that you can do it. I mean, I'm a fan, obviously, 100%, and I'm honored that you're part of the franchise. I'm honored that you're even here this week for, you know, more training, if you will. It's kind of like, geez, you know, I stare in that room and there's so many ballers in there. That's probably the thing that gives me the most pride. I'll sit in my office and well up, you know, looking at the people over there, and I'm like, this is so cool. You know, this is why you do it. So appreciate you, man. Sky's the limit. And how can people learn more about you? Where can they find you?
Yeah, best place to find me are, I would say, if you go to Instagram at Business for Unicorns, if they want to find Business for Unicorn stuff. If you're listening and you are a gym owner or even an Alloy franchisee, I think there's some stuff there you'd find valuable. And if they want to go to various interwebs homes, businessforunicorns.com is the website there. They can check out markfisherfitness.com. And then I think I'm pretty good at email, so they can always email me. Maybe mark@businessforunicorns.com is the easiest one to say verbally.
Yeah, I appreciate you, man.
Yeah, thanks for having me on.
Absolutely. Peace.